The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA. This is the Spurs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
125-92 this evening on the back of Victor Wembanyama's monster showing. I want to make sure I get every single stat here right, because it is, we know he's been an anomaly. He is an anomaly. And it just kind of feels like one of these things where there's something else and it just kind of writes itself. So the final number looks like this: 40 points on 15 of 21 shooting, 15 rebounds, along with 3 blocks, a plus 31 in 30 minutes of work. Welcome back after 8 months. It's easy to sit here and wax poetic about what this guy has done, but it just feels like, Devin, tonight, again, another chapter after Victor Wembanyama's book. Obviously, year 3, there's plenty left to go. But this evening, it's something that we're going to be talking about for a long time in San Antonio.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Victor, give him credit. He got in the lab in his time off. But he was very efficient in what he did. A lot of back-to-the-basket moves, using the glass. We've seen that for years with San Antonio. And he was just, he took the shots he wanted to take tonight, and that's why he had a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think that is something that you've heard a lot around here in Victor's infancy so far in San Antonio. These first couple of years, people love to just kind of defer back to he's 7'5". Get right in the paint, get your butt in the paint, take advantage of the fact that you're that tall, and that had become a little bit of the narrative during that time, during those first few years. But I think tonight, and you said it very well there, it felt like this is one of the few times that there was a real asserted effort on him to do that. And it didn't even particularly matter who was guarding him, because this is not a nobody who was guarding him. This is Anthony Davis, who's drawing that assignment for most of the night. Derek Lively, one of the premier young defenders in the sport, and he's just working through these guys. And it felt like tonight there was an element of no fear. Not that Victor really tends to have any fear, but it just felt like a different Wemby tonight.
No, and, sometimes you're going to have to excuse my language on this show because I get fired up. I was fired up during the game. But Victor was a pissed off dog, and that's the way he played. And if he can do that with the other contributions and the things that the Spurs have done with their roster, this team's going to be very good. I know it's game 1, but, like I said, Victor, he determined what he wanted to do tonight. It wasn't a lot of threes being fired up, some of the one-legged stuff you've seen in the past. No, he got to his spot of what he's been working on a daily basis, and he was very, very effective.
Yeah, very efficient, collectively all the way around. And this is something we're going to hit on a little bit more because, as we know, Wemby's going to get the highlights. He's going to be the lead on SportsCenter tonight. He's going to be all over social media. He already is. But collectively, from top to bottom, you don't put up a 125-92 victory without a little bit of balance. And there was I guess a little bit more than a little bit of balance. Stephon Castle, 22 points, 7 rebounds to go along with 6 assists. Devin Vassell was in the starting lineup today, of course, with De'Aaron Fox out of the starting lineup because of the hamstring situation. Jeremy Sohan as well. He puts up 13. Dylan Harper in his debut, 14 points, make that 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 7 of 14 shooting, a majority of that coming in the second half in a battle with him, of course, and fellow rookie Cooper Flagg. That's something we'll touch on in a little bit. But you and I were texting during the game, and I think kind of what we kind of agreed upon was that, especially, when you're with the dynamic of not having De'Aaron Fox around a little bit, was that there's going to be a lot of nights where that offense in the half court is going to stagnate. Victor's not going to go up there and put up 43 and 50.
Right.
What he will do is play defense, and what the team will do as a whole is play defense. And it felt like that really kind of set the tempo this evening. Dallas held under 40% shooting, never really in the second half did they gain any kinds of offensive rhythm. And it certainly seems that defense right now, it's cliche, but that's going to be the sticking point of what's going to determine the long-term success of this team, Devin.
Well, I take you back to our conversation a couple of days ago about how competitive it's been in the Spurs practice. I don't have to be there to realize that when you have a roster the way they do, it's going to be very competitive. And you saw that tonight. I thought Stephon Castle played, very well. And, Dylan Harper, showed some signs late. But what about a guy like Keldon, a guy like Vassell, where these guys are, getting paid a lot of money. And Vassell had a little run going there in the second quarter. And Keldon, that's just the way he plays. He's the dog. He's a hard worker. He's all over the glass. He's going to give you everything that he has. And so when you see this together, and then you have Victor play like that, and like you said, some nights Victor's not going to play like that. But you have enough now in the system where you're going to be able to get this done and maybe take some of the slack, from Victor when he doesn't have one of these Superman performances.
Tonight was interesting in this standpoint that it felt as if they were going into a situation where without De'Aaron Fox, without Jeremy Sohan, they were going to have to be a little bit creative around the dynamic of what they wanted to do going into this new team. Because in a lot of respects, last year, they didn't particularly have that. And with Victor out, of course. And what I like seeing so far was the Dylan Harper aspect of it. And I think getting him acclimated as well. Because the first quarter and a half that he was in, he looked like a rookie, Devin. He looked like a guy who was not doing that before.
The nerves were in there. Yeah, the nerves were in there. But he kicked him out, and he ended up playing well. The
final stat line for Harper, again, reads 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 dimes, 7 of 14 shooting in 23 minutes. The opposite side of things, of course, Cooper Flagg was the name on the marquee, along with Wemby entering to the evening. He goes for 10 points, 10 rebounds, 4 of 13 on the field, 32 minutes. Held scoreless in the first half, Cooper Flagg was. I'm going to deflect back to you because very few people can talk about the sentiment of being a rookie. Right. You have been in this spot. You have faced the bright lights. It's easy for me to go up here and say things like, exactly that. Like the stage was bright, you understand it. But for someone who's been in that spot, stepped on the floor for the first time, how does one kind of manage the jitters like that in your mind?
Well, it's very difficult. My first game, playing in the NBA, that was the first time, I played in, in front of so many fans. But I always looked at the game different growing up anyway. I never really tried to stare in the stands. So whether we were playing at St. George or where we were playing at UTSA or at the Frostbank Center, didn't really matter to me. But, a lot of these guys, nowadays, your Dylan Harpers, your Cooper Flaggs, they've played so many big-time AAU games, for them, it's like finally – we get to see everybody gets to see me play at this level. So, for both of them, I'm going to say, you look at the numbers and, they are what they are. But Dallas is trying to figure out with him. And they have a lot of time to do it. And same thing with Dylan Harper because, once De'Aaron Fox comes back, you're going to have a good problem, right? That's another guy to throw in the mix. So you got time to figure this thing out, but I'm glad you got 2 more rookies that are going to be a part of the NBA for a very long time.
Yeah, Carter Bryant, we haven't even talked about him. He did get a handful of minutes in the first half, largely inconsequential. I know you were referring to Flagg, but this kind of sparks the Carter Bryant. Largely inconsequential minutes, got a few in the first half, did go scoreless in his 9 minutes of work. Looking ahead a little bit, you've been on teams that have started off hot, have won on opening night, have lost on opening night, have played poorly on opening night, have started off red hot the first few games. You've for better or worse, you've experienced a little bit of everything. when you have a strong start in just about every single capacity of the game, how does one kind of compartmentalize that a little bit? Just be like, all right, game one's out of the way. Now it's on to New Orleans. How does that, you get past that right away, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a struggle the last few years, some tough times here in San Antonio. This, technically is 6 games in a row here, counting the preseason. And I had talked to you about that and, how, going into this game, I didn't want them thinking just because it was 5-0, how this first game was going to go. Dallas was going to be ready for them. But I'm glad I don't, have to predict games because the Spurs came out, did everything that they absolutely needed to do. Now, you're one of the coaches, with the Spurs, you tell them, congratulations, great win, and we're on to New Orleans. But in a sense, you have to be proud of how these guys came out and handled, everything that went into this game, a nationally televised game, everybody looking at what, Cooper Flagg was going to do. And they came out and it seemed like the Spurs took that personal and they had a great night. And now you go into New Orleans, their team is expected to do a lot this year. So it's going to be a great game, another great game, and another great test.
We can talk about the X's and O's, the guys on the floor, in my mind. Understandably so, those are the ones who garner most of the attention, right? But something I really liked was it felt with Mitch Johnson. It felt, and again, understandably so, it felt like it was always Pop's team, or it was still Pop's team, and there was just kind of a gray area whether or not it would truly become his team, and kind of putting myself, in his shoes. I'm sure that was, not frustrating, but there's a sense of anxiety. You're a new head coach. You're filling in for the greatest of all time. You're not sure if that job's going to be a long-term thing in particular. They showed a clip on the ESPN broadcast tonight where he is kind of parallel to the classic "I want some nasty" Pop quote that we've been seeing for years. Right. And it's tremendous too early to say that this was Mitch's moment. I want some nasty, whatever. It was not that. We know that. But what I liked, and this was something we didn't see from Mitch Johnson last season, was that confidence. You talk so much of a player's confidence, a confidence from the coach that's saying, this is my team now, guys. This is my team. I'm the guy in charge. I feel good. You trust me. I trust you. Let's go out and do some things. And I thought I'm glad ESPN showed that, because that was, I think, a real kind of eye-opener for a lot of people here in San Antonio that, hey, different times. And it's a good start early with Mitch.
Yeah, so with me, the first, say 10 minutes of the game, I was going to watch the rotations and as far as, what players are going to be playing. And I was trying to see if that was going to be the same. Like if he's taking a little bit from Pop, but then he's putting his own little spin on it, type deal.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I'm watching, but you can definitely tell that, he's been around Pop a very long time. And, the guys that are going to be on the floor and the guys that were on the floor that got the ball rolling. Obviously, you have your Wemby, that's your superstar. But, I'm telling you, those guys that are around him, I think that they're starting to understand who it is that they're playing with, because not everybody gets to play with a Wemby. Not everybody gets to play with a guy like a guy like Tim Duncan. And if you don't take advantage of it, you're going to be somewhere else. And and I think back to, like I said, there was a couple offensive rebounds that Keldon Johnson just outworks, the Mavericks. It kept the ball alive, and he gets these and ones. And I'm saying, Keldon does Keldon just play this way? Or is he starting to understand what it means to put a Spurs jersey on? Because there's a big difference.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
In 82 games this season, the New York Knicks could not beat the Cleveland Cavaliers.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
XJ, this is your wheelhouse, man. I will leave it to you. What did you think about that finish from the Knicks?
I think Mike Brown is a fan of Locked On Knicks. I think Mike Brown is a fan of Hot Hand Theory. I think Mike Brown and I are going to be buddies this year because what we saw was Deuce McBride plus the regular four starters dominate the game. And make no mistake about it, they dominated the game. Obviously, they played around 7 minutes, so there's only so much you can do in 7 minutes. They were +6 across those 7 minutes. Played at a high-speed pace, high offensive effectiveness, excellent defensive effectiveness, despite some shakiness in the final 4 minutes, which we can talk about. And they closed the game. And like you said, no Josh Hart, no Mitchell Robinson, obviously. That situation, hopefully, knock on a whole bunch of wood everywhere, it won't be the case much in the future. But in this situation, like you said, Mike Brown, one of his 5 best players to close the game, and they performed, and the lineup looks like, everything I and many others thought it could be. And I hope we see a bunch more of it. I hope this is encouraging. This is against the best team in the Eastern Conference last season, a dominant team, like you mentioned in the intro, a team that the Knicks could not defeat. And they took them out. And they took them out with really, really effective play, a lot of different lineups. And we'll talk about some of that stuff. But really, to me, my biggest takeaway was Deuce plus the starters, extremely effective and borderline dominant in the minutes that they played, especially in the first half, really ran the Cavs off the floor. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what I just saw, and hopefully we see it a lot more.
Yeah, I'll acknowledge what happened in this game just confirmed my preconceived biases of what I thought were wrong with last year's team. So I might be a little too high on the 1 game sample size, but the Knicks just did everything in this game that we were told over and over again for reasons that didn't really make sense. They weren't allowed to do last year, including again, maybe we'll see if this is actually like a consistent thing under Mike Brown when he has to pick between Deuce, Josh, and Mitchell Robinson versus Deuce and Ariel Hukporti. But closing with Deuce, and it just made the Knicks so difficult to guard at the end of this game. And you saw Cleveland over and over again, because the Knicks have arguably the best closer on planet Earth in Jalen Brunson, blitz him to take the ball out of his hands. And the Knicks were able to find just really easy buckets off of that, with Brunson getting off the ball, giving it to Mikal Bridges, led to what was ultimately the game-sealing 3 where he probed, sprayed it into the right corner. OG Anunoby, that was like the second time in the game the Knicks had that exact sequence. OG hit just a back-breaking 3 to make it 113-105 Knicks. And then OG like putting the exclamation point on it after Brunson and Mikal both missed like would-be daggers. Brunson had a left wing 3. Mikal had a baseline ISO on Jared Allen that just went in and out. That would have been such a sweet shot after like what was just a fantastic debut for him after such a shaky debut 365 days ago. OG absolutely seals the game. Ed Reed type moment, reading the Cavs inbound. It was going to Evan Mobley. He flies off his man, knocks the ball to Jalen Brunson, keeps running the floor, little double pump reverse, cherry on top of a win that, again, you have the grain of salt that Cleveland was missing 3 of their top 7, right? No Max Strus, no Darius Garland, no DeAndre Hunter. It was very obvious Cleveland was missing those guys. Again, the Knicks were missing their guys too, but like I don't know how you could walk away from this opening game anything but excited. Jeremy Cohen's bold prediction, XJ, on our show coming into the season was that the Knicks would go from far and away the worst bench scoring team in the NBA, 21 points per game last year, to 35 this year. We were debating how feasible that was. The New York Knicks finished this game with, oh my goodness, I thought I would have it in ESPN team stats, but I don't. So I'm just going to do the math in real time. I think it was around 40 bench points. They finished with 13, 28. They finished with, sorry, I got a little excited. 35 bench points, right on Jeremy Cohen's mark. That's exciting. They play 11 guys despite missing 2 surefire pieces of their rotation by the 1 second mark of the second quarter. Again, I don't know if you want to bounce on any of that. You want to stick with the end of the game. There was just so much to like in this one.
Couple of things here. It was very funny to see Kenny Atkinson send a soft double to Jalen Brunson at the end of the game. These weren't even off of pick and rolls. These were just soft doubles where they're bringing 2 to Jalen Brunson with the ball up really, really high. Very ironically, the Knicks' own coach, Mike Brown, when he was the Kings coach, played this same style of defense against Jalen Brunson towards the end of a Sacramento Kings New York Knicks game. And Josh Hart had a field day with the 4-on-3s that he got on the back end of that. That is not a feasible way to attack the Knicks, and they were even more devastating with it with their 5-out lineup. It just is infeasible to blitz Brunson in these situations, and that's something I think we're going to see pay huge dividends as the season goes on when we see this lineup, especially late in games. And maybe Mike Brown will really, really like that, and like that, he can get Jalen Brunson in isolations whenever he wants, because you cannot blitz them. They will just swing, and it's going to a open shooter who probably shoots 40% from wherever he's shooting from. And so that puts you at a huge disadvantage if you're the defense in all of these late game situations. So I really love that. I really love that optionality that the 5-out lineup gives them, especially with Deuce McBride on the court. And then you mentioned the 11 guys playing in the game. That I was so excited about that. It is such a juxtaposition when we're talking 11 guys playing. We're talking keeping starters minutes low. I think only OG Anunoby played over 34 minutes in this game, which was really incredible to see. And we have guys like Tyler Kolek playing a bunch of minutes. Like you said, we maybe we'll talk about it more later, but just in theory, overall, the thematic idea of Mike Brown really enacting everything that, like you said, we were told for various reasons, this stuff can't happen. You can't do it. And you do it, and you beat and you knock off the Cleveland Cavaliers somehow in game 1 to open the season. So all of that's super, super exciting. And I'm sure we'll get into more details as this episode goes on, but there's just so much to get into. And to me, I'm not a 1 game sample size kind of guy. Obviously, I'm a huge sample size kind of guy before I make my assessments, but you really couldn't ask for more in the first game, in my opinion.
And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Life finds a way. Championship teams find a way. And on opening night, the Orlando Magic found a way.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast.
I think we all had big expectations for this game. Like we talked about it with our friends from Locked On Heat. There's big expectations for the season. Everybody can feel it. You can feel it in the energy in the building for opening night. You can feel it with every time you talk about this team. I can feel it when I look at the traffic and I look at how many people are watching and commenting on these videos, which thank you guys for doing, by the way. I do read them. I know you shouldn't always read the comments, but I do read them. This is a big season. There's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of expectation and hope for this team. Let game 1 remind you that this is still a process, that there are still a lot of moving parts and a lot of new pieces, whether it's learning a new offense and learning kind of a new style and mindset, whether it's learning new teammates and figuring out where there's going to be on the floor. There's still a lot of moving parts of this thing, and it's not going to look pretty, and it doesn't have to look perfect right now for the Orlando Magic because we've got how many, 6 months before the playoffs? We got a long way to go, 81 more games. It's a lot. There's a long, long way to go. But you still want to learn things in these games. you first learn what you still need to work on. Magic still need to work on their defense a lot. Defense was nowhere near what we're expecting from the Magic, certainly not consistently. The Magic still need to work on their half-court offense specifically. A lot of stagnant basketball, the kind of basketball that we've been used to seeing here for the last decade, and certainly from last year where the Magic just kind of fell back into that stagnant bad habit. But this is where things are different, or this is where the Magic begin to differentiate themselves. They found a way to win. And I don't mean that like kind of small, lowercase way. They found a way to win. When it looked like the Heat were going to run away with this, we were making too many big shots, too many big plays. When it looked like they were the ones in charge, the Magic answered back. The Magic made that next play. They won those 50-50 balls. Whether it was Wendell Carter pulling down 2 humongous offensive rebounds, one for a putback and one that tied the game midway through the fourth quarter. Another one that gave the Magic a 4-point lead after he hit a pair of free throws. Whether it was Jalen Suggs hitting this impossible, just getting stuck and hitting this impossible turnaround jumper that gave the Magic a 2-point lead at the time. Whether it was Desmond Bane diving on the floor to get a loose ball after the Magic had given up 2 offensive rebounds, diving on the floor to get a loose ball to make sure the Magic got possession and the opportunity to score and the opportunity to take that 4-point lead, which became the final margin. These are the plays. These are the little plays. These are the moments. And despite giving up 121 points, giving up 30 points in the fourth quarter, 39 in the first quarter, 52 in the middle 2 quarters, things that are not Magic defense. I don't have the offensive rating in front of me, the offensive defense rating in front of me, but this isn't Magic basketball. At the critical juncture, when the Magic needed stops, when the Magic needed baskets, when the Magic needed to make plays, they found a way. It starts with the defense, undoubtedly. It obviously starts with the defense. Being able to get key stops, making humongous plays, whether it was that Jalen Suggs charge, the Desmond Bane rebound, just defensive rotations that looked like Magic basketball. It might still be a process to make that consistent. It might still be a process to make that the full range of what the Magic are going to do. But when the Magic needed it most tonight, they found it. And that's why you have to come away saying this team's going to be fine. This team has the talent. They have the ability. They have the will to find a way to win. Look, I say this all the time. There are 82 of these things. There are wild swings. So you can't make judgments off of one game. If the Magic had lost this game, like I said on yesterday's pod, first games are kind of random. You don't always know what to expect, especially with a lot of new players on the team. Just, we'll see the Atlanta Hawks here on Friday. Look at the Atlanta Hawks against the Toronto Raptors. That's not the final product. Look at the back and forth of the Cavs and the Knicks game today. This is not the final product, but it is a step on the road. It is a step in the direction of where the Magic are going to go. And I think if you watch this game, and if you take my word for it, you can see the potential. You can see how everything can come together for this team. You can see why everyone believes so much on this team, why there's so much buzz in the building, why there's so much energy in the building. Because even on a day when the Magic did not play their best, even on a day when the offense looked sluggish for long stretches, where the Magic had to play from behind and catch up in the fourth quarter, where their defense did not get stops consistently. They got beat in transition. They got beat in fast breaks. They fouled too much. The Magic, at the critical moments, when the game was on the line, they did not quit. They did not believe they were going to lose this game. They stayed calm. They stayed composed. And when everything called for it, they made the plays. We're going to say this a bunch this year. I am not a big believer in clutch stats mattering, in clutch being anything special. I'm lying to myself when I say that, because the good teams do stuff like they did tonight. The good teams, go watch that Oklahoma City Thunder game against the Rockets on Tuesday night, or really any Oklahoma City game over the last few years. You find ways to win. When the game is in the balance, you get that loose ball. You get that stop. You make that shot. And so look, it's one game. Let's not overreact. Let's not go crazy. There is a lot to clean up. There's a lot the Magic have to do better. They can't turn the ball over as much as they did, 15 turnovers. They've got to do better converting off of turnovers. 19 turnovers with 25 points is pretty good. 23 fast break points. They got to figure out how to control their speed and control their tempo so that they're not getting beat on defense by offensive mistakes. They got to understand what a good shot is. They got to learn where to be on the floor around each other. Most of the mistakes the Magic made tonight, or most of the mistakes the Magic made in this game, they are mistakes that come from not playing together very much. Jalen Suggs has been out since late January, almost 8 months, or almost 9 months to the day. He looked at times a little lost. Desmond Bane and Paolo Banchero, there's a play in the fourth quarter where they literally ran into each other and were sitting and standing in the same spot. That's not good offense. There was a lot of moments where the offense looked like it did last year. Just too stagnant. And we'll talk a little bit about that here when we go through the box score. But what's important today, the big takeaway today, is that you find a way to win. At the end of the day, nobody cares about all this other stuff. That's stuff to work on in practice and in film review and in the next game. All that anybody's going to care about, all that the numbers and the stats are going to say at the end of the day is, did you win? The Orlando Magic won tonight. A game maybe they don't win, certainly not toward the end of last season, certainly not when they weren't at full health. They win. They beat a game Heat team playing out of their minds, playing really, really well. Enough that if you go listen to Locked On Heat, I am sure they are more encouraged than discouraged. This is the kind of game where a championship level team, which the Magic aspire to be, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. This is the kind of game that a championship level team is not thrilled about, even when they win. I'm warning you, I'm going to get prickly about wins. It's about winning the right way. But ultimately, what's the difference between the winning teams, the championship level teams, and other teams is finding ways to win games like this. Stealing a game that you probably should have lost. The Magic made the plays down the stretch. They look like the together team. They look like the grittier team. They look like the team that believed they were going to pull this out and win it. And that's exactly what they did.